entrepreneurs, and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. I am your host, Kelly Wilson. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. Edge is so much more than just a Getting the Edge podcast. We are a multi-platform, a media company that specializes in assisting small business owners with gaining visibility and prominence in the community. Edge offers the multi-platform of magazines, and we've been happy to publish magazines over the last couple years, and we've interviewed great leaders. We also have the Getting the Edge podcast that'll be coming to you weekly. You can check us out at our website at edgebusinessmagazine.com. We have a new website that's launching in January, so we're really excited about that. Again, I'm your host, Kelly Wilson, and a little bit about me. I'm a storyteller and a community builder. I personally have over 20 years of experience in the marketing and advertising world. In the past 5 years, I have spent passionately involved in the business community, increasing the profiles of Tampa Bay leaders by sharing their stories through our multiple media platforms. And I've enjoyed doing that very much. So again, today's all about getting the edge with our guest, and each week we're going to bring in great leaders in our community to highlight them, find out about their journeys. I think we can learn so much from each other's journey. Right to my left here is Laura, and I'm going to introduce Laura in just a second. I'll do it now. Okay, Laura Scott, great friend of mine, great leader in the community. Figured she was perfect as my first guest today. So Laura Scott, president of 180 Coaching.
Thank you,
for being here with me today.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. For years, I did a radio show, the Getting the Edge radio. We were on iHeart, and I had headphones on, and we were in a studio, and that was great. So this is a little different. Being I figured a dining room was a perfect place to be casual and really have a chance. We sit and talk all the time, so we're just going to do that with a lot of people watching us. But and that's part of why I've built Edge the way it is today, is because I've learned so much from sitting down and all the conversations we have, that I want to be able to share that with everyone else. So today we're at Genghis Khan Restaurant, which is a Mediterranean grill. The address, 3114 West Beta Bay. So if you're in the Tampa area, come out and check out Genghis Khan. Amazing Mediterranean food. And
Yes.
The owner, Ergen Tech, will be on one of our shows in the future, and he's a great individual with a great story as well. And that's, again, part of what Edge is sharing stories, and everyone has a story. And so today we're going to learn a lot about Laura. And so tell us a little bit about 180 Coaching to start with.
Well, 180 Coaching is one of the Tampa's top leading providers of executive coaching and leadership training. I founded 180 Coaching 7 years ago when I moved to Tampa. It was not my first foray into coaching. I had worked with another gentleman in Virginia for 8 years, coaching around basically project management, communication, influencing, personal productivity. And I absolutely loved that experience. We had a great exposure to every kind of industry, every type of organization, for-profit, nonprofit, privately held, in Southwest Virginia, very diverse group of clients. And I really love that experience. And I find I learn as much from my clients as they learn from me, in terms of best practices, in terms of just resiliency around how they manage to navigate some really difficult business challenges. And so I'm just so privileged to be in the room, literally, when big decisions happen, and people are strategically figuring out how to align their business decisions with their values and their grander vision of what their business wants to grow into.
Well, so many of us have worked so hard building our business that the decisions that we make are so critical. And everyone, granted, we never really know all the right decisions to make, but having someone to talk to that can help get us through those tough decisions, or even talk our options out,
right?
So that we can make the best option. Because ultimately, it's up to the business owners and the CEOs to make the best decisions for their business. But it can be challenging. Tell 180 Coaching. Where did that name come from?
Well, I like the idea of the 180 turnaround, the pivot, right? Almost everybody has to do a pivot at some point, either a pivot in their business model or a pivot in their mindset or a pivot in their thinking. And so I kind of have this visual of 180 coaching as being a way to help people navigate that pivot, because it's crucial that we make those pivots probably 2 or 3 or 4 times in our life, major incidents where, business models get stale and they need to grow, and new thinking, new assumptions.
Well, I think we're always evolving, right? Into whatever our original business plan might have been. That's kind of our base, but we have to continue evolving from there.
We do. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I mean, it's a privilege to be actually born in this time where we see exponential growth and change and volatility. And if you don't respond, and even ahead of the curve, you could find yourself, looking back and saying, "Wow, I missed that opportunity."
And that's what we do not want to do. Always to be, we do not want to miss the opportunities. We want to be aware of them and seek them out when they're appropriate to do so.
And usually that's how entrepreneurs grow, and that's how businesses start, is somebody sees a ripe opportunity that nobody else saw, and they're just slightly ahead of the curve. And they see that opportunity, they go, why isn't anyone else seeing this? Why is it this not? And then just being able to position yourself to be the best person or the best organization to deliver that service, that product, whatever it is.
So I have the pleasure of getting to know Laura, and we've become good friends over the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, our first magazine that I published with Edge in 2015, Laura was one of our contributing writers in that, and you can again go back to our website at edgebusinessmagazine.com and you can check out Laura's previous articles that she's written. But Destined to Fail was one of them, and Tweaking Your To-Do List, I think something along those lines. And you also wrote, actually she has a great article that's upcoming in our upcoming issue that'll be out later in December, and in regards to flow state. Tell us, before we switch topics, tell us a little bit, don't give too much away in regards to this upcoming issue, but tell us a little bit about flow state.
Well, flow state is really a way to engage your brain in the most effective manner. And so we know from fMRIs and brain studies that the so-called flow state happens when you're relaxed, when you're intensely curious, when it's that time where time just flies. You're engaged in a project and you look up and you go, "Oh my gosh, I've been sitting here for 4 hours doing this." And amazing.
I call it losing time. Like if I'm writing, and then it's the most exciting zone to be in, and then you look up and you've lost 4 hours. I don't call it, you don't lose them necessarily. They were
actually really productive times.
Great, exactly, very productive.
And people talk about being in the flow or being in the zone or whatever that is, and it's really a way to engage your brain in a certain way where you're not really fearful, you're not struggling, kind of noodling a problem. You're actually exploring and looking at opportunities that maybe have never have occurred to you before, ideas that you've never even thought about. You're accessing your higher wisdom in a way that is really quite cool. And if you can make that happen regularly in your life, but you have to get part of your brain out of the way to do that.
We talk about that often, yes.
So not all of our brain serves us. There's a lot of default behaviors that the brain wants to execute that really, they might have served us when we were cavemen back in the day.
We're no longer cavemen.
The fight or flight response probably did get us out of the way of a saber-tooth, fang. But it does not typically serve us now as business people. And so if we can get our brain out of the way and be an ally versus an adversary to what we want to do,
that's one of the things I say all the time. We should be our own best friends. Our business, building our business and just life in general is tough. So we should ultimately be our own best friends. Why is it that many times we're not? We're hardest on ourselves. We give advice, we give great advice to other people, but yet a lot of times it's hard to take that advice.
Yeah.
And it's great that when I sit down and talk with you sometimes, and you remind me that I'm not the only one that's dealing with this, that's some of the things that you deal with on a regular basis with your clients.
Yes, absolutely.
It's over the years, and again, so I started Edge 2013, and over the years, Laura and I have become very good friends, and you've given me such great advice over the years. And I remember one in particular that I wanted to mention. I was hosting events regularly. We were doing Edge, we had about 12 to 24 events a year. And I tell you, I don't know how, it doesn't matter how many events that I would do, each time on the way to the event, I would have almost anxiety attacks. and you sat down with me once, and I was sharing this with you, and you said for me to identify what it was that I was experiencing, and then talk to me a little bit about that, how you can kind of help people.
It's a simple trick. It's called affect labeling. And all you really have to do in order to be sort of masterful around your imagination, or your emotions, I should say, is to really actually label them.
Right.
That's the first step. The only way you're going to master your emotions is to actually understand what they are and label them. And when you label them and you say, well, I'm feeling anxiety right now. You're not, or I'm feeling anger. You're not angry. You're feeling anger. Right. You're feeling anxiety. And once you identify what that feeling is, you can just say, well, I wonder why I'm feeling that now. I mean, I'm about to get in the car and go to this great event that myself and my team have spent days organizing. We've got incredible, clientele, and sponsors going to meet us there, and they're excited about the event. Right. And you sort of talk yourself out of it a little bit by just sort of identifying the emotion that you're feeling and understanding that it's a fleeting thing. It's not something that's embedded, that's a part of you. It's just like kind of clouds floating across the sky. There's anxiety,
Right.
There's frustration, there's whatever that emotion is. It's something that is with us, and then it's not with us.
Right. And it seems silly in the moment to identify these feelings that are occurring within you, but let me just say it works. So give it a shot.
Yeah.
And try it out. And the next time you're feeling anxious or whatever you're feeling, identify it and deal with it and address it, and you'll move through it. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Getting the Edge and Laura Scott.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge with your host, me, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're back with the wonderful Laura Scott, who is the president of 180 Coaching. Thank you so much for being with us, Laura. We were talking, oh goodness, Laura is just absolutely amazing, and I was saying earlier how much Laura has helped me in my life and in my career, and really we've become great friends. But different things that I've dealt with, Laura has been there to kind of help me through, and really just by talking. Sometimes we talk and then we come up with amazing different strategies in order to get through things. One of the things I mentioned is Laura's been one of our contributing writers for Edge Business Magazine over the last few years, and a couple of her articles that she's written, Destined to Fail, Rethinking Your Daily To-Do List, Having the Courage to Delegate, Prime Your Brain for Trust, and Building Trust One Conversation at a Time. All of those you can read on our website at edgebusinessmagazine.com. You can check out, you can scroll down and you'll see previous issues of Edge, and you can scroll through and check out some of Laura's earlier writing. And we have a brand new magazine that's coming out in December, and Laura's featured in that as well. So we're really excited to always have you contributing. I feel like, I can blast everybody with business information and just tons of great, valuable information. But it's amazing to allow us an opportunity to just know how to deal with all of that's going on inside of us. And you tell us a little bit about 180 Coaching. Again, I know we talked about that earlier, but just kind of recap on what you do and why you're so amazing.
Well, it's really, 180 Coaching's been a lifelong dream for me in terms of my sort of tagline is changing the world one leader at a time. And I think that sounds kind of like really grand, but it is. It's big for me. It's big because I think leaders generally have a real desire to make a difference. And I'm looking at this. Thank you.
Is that what that was? Oh my goodness.
It is a rooster.
Oh my goodness.
It's a rooster.
All right, everyone, if you happen to catch the rooster in the background.
In case you were sleeping through this podcast.
You're awake now.
You're awake now. Welcome back. No, I mean, 180 Coaching for me is really a life's dream. I had been previously married to a CEO, and so I understood kind of the trials and tribulations of executives, and it's kind of a lonely place to be when you're, as I said before, as you move up the org chart, it is less about doing and more about being. Right. And it's been really a privilege to work with these top leaders and to try to help them be confident around the decisions they make, but also be the best leader they can be. And so I'm all about leadership. I'm all about trying to find the opportunities to lead from your values and to really create a leadership brand that is sustainable, that builds trust, that is has some life to it, so that it's not just somebody making a decision that positively impacts EBITDA or some other financial metric. It's all about creating an organization that has a life, that has a soul, that has an impact in whatever industry or where whoever you serve. So it's really taking a much more big picture approach, but also understanding that businesses are just entities. They're legal entities. Real businesses are just made up of people.
Right.
And that's where I come into play is I really make sure that the people on board are fully engaged, understand the vision and values, understand each other so they know how to communicate across different personalities and behavioral styles so that they are coalesced as a team and focused on one thing, and one thing is so important, and that is to make sure that everybody understands what's really important.
You know, one thing that I think is amazing in business today and the way we've evolved is compassion kind of coming back into the business world. And one of the things where I feel that Edge stands out is, you know, with Edge, it's not only business, it's personal. And, you know, for years, I've been taught that don't mix business and personal, and you keep business separate and you keep personal separate, and it's always just business. You always heard that saying, well, it's not personal, it's business. And it's amazing. One of the questions I always ask great CEOs like yourself is, you know, what is one trait that you feel that every leader should possess? And most often today, that answer is empathy, compassion towards other people. Do you see that as well, coming back more into the business?
I see that as a way, in fact, business models are designed around the fact that this is a social enterprise, not as well as a business enterprise. So, you know, there are lots of trends. You see sort of a business model that I see emerging quite often now is what I call the win-win-win model.
Right.
Where every stakeholder wins. And if you design your business model around the idea that every stakeholder wins, and that is your true calling, that is exactly how you build your business, I see those businesses as having a really, really strong future, being sustainable over the next decades. And I see those businesses that don't adhere to that model failing.
Right.
And so I do see that shift. So thank you for that. And there's the rooster again. I think we should just need to get the rooster out of doors.
You know, it's interesting. I was watching an interview the other day, or a documentary, and they were talking about vulnerability and how the business world, you know, the business place it never had any place for vulnerability in the past. Yeah. But now, you know, it is okay for CEOs to show some vulnerability. Sure. Because if we show vulnerability, then we become real people.
Well, I think that's very true. And in the trust model that I use, which is Judith E. Glaser's conversational intelligence trust model, transparency is the biggest key to building trust. So transparency almost dictates a little bit of vulnerability because sometimes you have to tell the hard truth, what I call the ground truth. Right. And that might be a little bit unnerving or a little more vulnerable because maybe you have to share with your team that it's not all perfect and rainbows and lollipops, and we have to make some hard decisions. Right. Or we have to make some choices that are not ideal in the short term but serve us in the long term. And if you understand that transparency is what's important to building trust, then it's not so scary.
Well, I just had this vision in my head of a CEO running through the office crying, you know, and just like crying hysterically. And, you know, so I guess we should limit the vulnerability that we show, you know, but
I think, you know, one of the things that I do in my pause power training and my resiliency training is all about understanding what your hot buttons are and what your triggers are. Because once you've figured out what your hot buttons and your triggers are, then you can kind of manage that response, that emotional response. And so, no, it doesn't have to be a total meltdown.
Right. I guess that's a great word for it, total meltdown.
It doesn't have to be, you know, vulnerability could be just, I don't have all the answers. Right. I think that's the most important way to meet transparency and vulnerability is to understand that I don't have all the answers, but the answers are in the room, and I trust that the answers are in the room.
You know, earlier on, when I would invite people to participate in the magazine, I was actually even at University of Tampa one day, and I was talking with Dr. Rebecca White, and we were talking about an article for her to write that the university was going to be involved in, and she had asked me, well, what direction? I knew it was going to be on leadership. Well, what direction do you want us to focus on? I said, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. You know, you come up with it. And she just looked at me and she said, you know, Kelly, I don't know how. You might be one of the few that I've ever heard admit they don't have all the answers. And I was shocked. I kind of just assumed that, I mean, none of us have all the answers. So, but that seems more, now that was years ago, and now the more I've experienced in the business world, it is more common for people to just act like they have the answers. So saying and admitting that you don't is odd. But I think we should all do that a little more often.
Well, I see that also on town hall meetings that, you know, CEOs and leaders, you know, call together their employees and bring them in a town hall meeting. And I'm seeing that more and more, that the content of their talk is a little bit more vulnerable. It is about exploring what could be possible, and inviting their team to hold them accountable for things. And so that really is a great way to sort of build trust and also collaborate, and also invite people to be part of the solution. Because one of the things I often say to people is the worst thing you can do is come into a meeting with the prepackaged solution. That is not engaging.
Well, and don't you bring all these great individuals and surround yourself with them in order to collaborate and learn from them and all work together? Just because you're in a CEO position doesn't mean you necessarily have all the answers.
And you don't, and you really can't have all the answers. It's virtually, I mean, how much pressure would that be? To have to, take that whole burden on yourself,
right,
and make every decision and craft every solution. That's not a place that any, I think, really good CEO wants to be either.
Just quickly, and I know, throughout, I don't know, the last so many years, it just seems like more and more people are becoming coaches, and I know we only have a couple minutes till we have to go to break again, but tell us just quickly, what stands you apart from other coaches?
We're all very different. We all have our great passions and niches and specialties, and I just sort of gravitate to coaching leaders at the director to CEO level. I just love that group. I've done a lot of coaching in that realm, but I think my specialty is really on resiliency and keeping. I always say to my owners and my leaders, you're the most important asset your business has, and I think I've told you that many times. To be important, that the person in the leadership role is the most important asset the company has, and to be able to support that person and customize coaching and training solutions for them and their team, I think is what sets me apart. I don't do any cookie cutter coaching. Everything is very specific to the client's needs.
Well, like I said, I've worked with you personally, and I think you're amazing, and you've helped me tremendously over the last so many years, so I appreciate everything you've done. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back. We'll talk more with Laura Scott with Getting the Edge.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge with your host, Kelly Wilson, which is me. Thank you so much for joining us. We are with the amazing Laura Scott, who is president of 180 Coaching. Thanks again for being with us today, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
We've spent the hour so far talking about Laura and she specializes in resiliency coaching. Laura's worked with me numerous times over the years and makes me feel so comfortable, which is one of the reasons today is our first show of Getting the Edge. And one of the reasons I invited Laura, it was strategic for me. I wanted Laura here with me to be my first guest on the podcast. So I appreciate you being here. You, you help so much with us dealing with the commotion that goes on in our minds and helping us really identify what's the noise and what to discard and what to really kind of hold tight to and I guess elaborate more on. And again, you've been very helpful for me over the years. Tell us a little bit, and I know we talked about it right before break, and as far as resiliency coaching and what exactly that means.
So really that is, resiliency is thought to be the ability to bounce back from challenging or stressful situations. But I think as we learn more about resiliency and how resiliency expresses itself in the brain and through our actions and behaviors, we're learning a little bit more that it's actually more of an infrastructure. And so from a capacity, and I've been learning so much from Catherine McEwen, who's an organizational psychologist in Australia. I was privileged to train with her earlier this year in an instrument called Resiliency at Work. And they have a team assessment which breaks resiliency down to like 7 components or 7 elements. And so it's not just bouncing back, it's also building capacity in your business. There's things like self-care, there's things like perseverance, or what we could call grit, which there's specific behaviors associated with each of those elements that if you can be conscious about executing those behaviors, you are going to be more resilient. Your business is going to be more resilient. Your team is going to be more resilient. And it could be something as simple as really aligning more closely to your values and making sure that everybody's on the same page. It could be something as simple as building more fun into your day. It could be being able to connect with someone on a very human level. And again, compassion and empathy has a
we talked about that a little
big thing to do with that as well. But also just being able to reach out to and really utilize resources in very strategic ways. So that's all built into it.
And resiliency training is one of your specialties, but I tell you, Laura is just amazing and so in tuned with so much more even beyond that. I just had a thought of a couple years ago, I was having a conversation and I watch different leaders and the more documentaries I have watched, I see that they experience it as well. But we're always dealing, I think, especially when we're genuine, humble people, that yes, we might have built a community, but that doesn't make me any different than anyone else. And that we're really all at the same level. And it's imposter syndrome is something that we talked about. It's where I'm kind of going with this. That sometimes, you wonder, who am I to give, I think, who am I to give advice to other people? Or what makes me this expert in this industry? Or what am I doing here, sitting here with all these amazing people? And then, you actually labeled it and said that you deal with it's imposter syndrome. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that conversation helped me identify that I wasn't the only one dealing with that.
I think everybody suffers a little bit from imposter syndrome through the course of their lives as they get to be more masterful in their careers, or they become subject matter experts. And some people really embrace that role, but other people with certain personality types go, what, am I really all that?
Right.
And they start to question that, and it undermines their confidence. And it's like, what if they find out that I'm a fraud? What if they find out that I'm not all that? Or what if they find out that really I'm not this or that? Right. But I think it really can serve as a very, very big block to success if you don't address it early and really own what you bring to the table, own the value. And sometimes I really have to do some really big why work with my clients for them to understand what they actually are bringing to the table that maybe they haven't been able to identify or articulate until that point. But once they figure out exactly where they bring value to any situation, then that imposter syndrome just goes away, because then they're branding around that particular aspect of who they are and what they bring, and they're owning it. And once you own that, and once you understand that, and I did that as a coach, who am I? I'm sitting with these CEOs. I don't know. I don't know their business inside out. They know their business inside out. All I can do as a coach is be their thinking partner and expand their options and challenge any assumptions that might be getting in the way. I don't have to know everything about their business. And so to a certain degree, a really good coach has to get rid of the imposter syndrome right off the get-go, because really, we are not consultants. We're not going to tell anyone what to do. We have to implicitly trust our clients to make the right decision, but we help them make the right decision by basically walking them through all of the options and having that sort of objective third eye. The other benefit of having a coach, of course, is having exposure to all these best practices, because I have a wide base of clients, all of who have these amazing best practices that I can then share with my clients. So just throwing out those options. But imposter syndrome is a real block, and it's often associated with women, but I see it happening with men too. There's something that some little dark little gremlin voice that says, what are you doing here?
Right. Well, and it goes
Who are you to be saying this?
Right, and it goes back to kind of, we were talking earlier about how Laura helped me even with anxiety that I experienced prior to hosting events and speaking in front of a lot of people. And it was great to know that I wasn't the only one that dealt with that. Yeah. And again, talking about all this and talking about all this now for everyone else is to show some vulnerability with us and me, and that, it's okay to talk about what we're experiencing, because everyone else has experienced it most likely. And if we can help other people with their challenges and overcoming those, that's what the purpose of EDGE is. And that's what I want us to do, and bringing all these great minds together. And again, I've had the pleasure of interviewing and sitting down with so many wonderful people. Yeah. I've learned so much from them. You can learn something from everyone. And again, that's kind of when I look at us all being on the same level of things. We can all learn. You can learn from the janitor that's cleaning the, you can learn from everybody. We all have a story, and no one's above anyone else. But okay, you have these amazing retreats that you do that are called Pause Power retreats. So tell us a little bit about Pause Power.
Well, I actually I've changed that model a bit. It's no longer like a multiple day retreat. It's just one day, because I think we're all busy people, and all we can do is maybe carve out like 6 or 7 hours. So I've actually changed the Pause Power experience to be a one day. I wish I could do more of them. I'm really, really busy, so I don't have time to do more of them. But this year it's going to be February 9th here in Tampa, right near the airport. And we bring coaches, executives, wellness, HR professionals, wellness professionals, anyone who wants to know how to manage their triggers and hot buttons, how to find equanimity, which is basically that feeling of calm in the midst of chaos. And
we all need that.
Life's chaos.
Yes.
And so if we can feel calm and confident in the midst of chaos, and we can make strategic decisions and also execute strategic responses to all of the threats and the stimuli that's happening around us, that just makes us feel just so much more masterful and in control and calm and peaceful, and just understanding how we get that. So I've really boiled it down to like some really simple tips and tricks that can be practiced and learned in like 7 hours or less on a Saturday. And that's really what I'm going to go forward with in terms of the training that I do for Pause Power. So if you happen to be in town, February 9th, 2019 in Tampa, you can go to my website, which is www.180coaching.com, and you just click on the Pause Power page, and you'll find the information.
I highly recommend. I have enjoyed, and I keep saying all the time that we've spent together. I can only imagine having all of that impact, impactful opportunity in a matter of a 7-hour day. Not to mention all the other great minds that are going to be there
we
as
have
well.
some really good stories.
I bet you
we
do.
tackle real life issues. We actually tackled in the last Pause Power, we had one person who was deathly afraid of snakes and happened upon, on a hike in California, seeing a sign where this said, beware of rattlesnakes. And immediately her brain went to like, I'm going to be bitten by a rattlesnake. And suddenly this, what should have been a wonderful little hike in the mountains, turned out to be like a just incredibly stressful, scary event for her, which robbed her of all the joy she could have had from that event. So we used that kind of incident as a metaphor and for that, but we were talking about that day in terms of resiliency and self-mastery in terms of emotions.
I think in that, going back to that, you hear so many great people say it's not so much about the destination and your arrival, it's about the journey. So if we're able to pause and learn to embrace the challenges and embrace the journey, then we're going to enjoy every day instead of letting the chaos take over, which I think is what Laura can help so much with, and the Pause Power retreats as well.
Yeah, and I think it's just another day to remind ourselves that the only point of power that we have is the moment, this moment. Because the past is past, the future is unpredictable, but where we actually do have an ability to control is that actual moment that we're in. And that's our greatest power. And if we can, really leverage that power, then we're going to be much better off as human beings and business people and leaders.
Absolutely. We've talked some too about being mindful and trying to be aware of the moment and being in the moment. Give us a few tips on mindful and being able to be present in the moment.
Well, I think it's you are absolutely in control of where you put your focus on. What you put your focus on. That is something that we have absolute control. We don't have control over the economy. We don't have control over what's going to happen, tomorrow. But we have absolute control over where we put our focus. So as an exercise in mindfulness, I would invite everyone as they go about their day is to be totally focused in this moment. Right now I'm sitting with awesome Kelly Wilson in this great Genghis Khan Mediterranean restaurant. And I'm sitting there having this great conversation and seeing your wonderful smile.
Oh, thank you.
And just being able to sort of feel the leather under my butt
and take it
in
all
the chair and looking at this wonderful water, which not everybody gets because this is like a gift to us, fresh water. Not everyone gets that. And just being appreciative and having gratitude of being just in this moment and not worrying about the past or the future.
Thank you, Laura. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Getting the Edge.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge with me, your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just to recap, we are at the great Genghis Khan restaurant in Tampa Bay, right on Beta Bay, and I am with the lovely, amazing president of 180 Coaching, Laura Scott. Thank you for being with us again today, Laura.
Thank you.
And exciting to be for my first show with Getting the Edge. So thank you so much for letting me you be my guinea pig today as my first guest on the show. Again, we did radio with Getting the Edge for many years, so this is a little different to have cameras around, but it's okay. We're getting used to it. So if you're just joining us, please go back and watch the whole show because we don't have time to bring it all back to you, and Laura's given us some great advice. You're just amazing, and again has helped me personally in my business over the last so many years. So just so we can get to know you a little bit better. Yeah. You are originally from Canada, right?
Yes. Born in Edmonton, Alberta, the frosty north.
Wow, I did not realize how cold it was in Canada. I guess I should have because it's quite a bit north, but it just never thought about it. Like, yeah. So how long have you been in the States?
I moved down. My ex-husband had an incredible opportunity to be in a leadership position in the United States, and it was too good to pass up. So I had just recently launched my third business, which was a publishing business. So I wasn't exactly thrilled to be moving because I had just finally broken even and was seeing some decent profits and building this business when this opportunity for him came too. But I'm very open to like adventure, and I'm not afraid of change. And so I thought, you know what? I now actually can sell this business maybe at a profit because it's actually doing pretty well. And so I just thought, well, okay, this is not the last business I'm going to be founding, I guess. And so I just went with it, and I never looked back. I think moving to Virginia, I didn't get my green card for a couple of years, so I basically volunteered to help people with their business plans, mostly professionals. Helping them market, just a freelance, free consultant.
Right.
Everyone
Well,
said,
at that
why
point,
the heck not? This woman's giving her services for free.
Right.
So I got to work with some people as a volunteer, worked in the school system. I'm passionate about helping youth and doing that. And then when my green card came, I was looking for opportunities, and through a friend got hooked up with a gentleman who ultimately hired me as a coach, and the rest is history. So I've been a really proud citizen of the United States for a very long time now, and it's home, and it will continue to be home. And Tampa Bay is literally the best kept secret in the world.
It is an amazing city.
And don't tell anyone how great this place is.
We have tremendous growth. It really is an amazing city. Okay, were you encouraged to dream as a child? Were you surrounded by a family of dreamers as well that encouraged you to dream?
Absolutely. My mother was a refugee in World War II from Germany. My father, his family came from England. His his grandfather actually came with probably a couple coins in his pocket to the gold rush in Canada, the Klondike. So we're a bunch of crazy ass entrepreneurs. Don't tell us no. We're going to find a way
right. I love that.
around that. And I find that I had really fine role models growing up. And my parents, they actually ran a custom HVAC fabrication business, and they worked together for many, many years as partners.
Very nice.
My dad was in the back of the office, my mother was at the front of the office. They divided and conquered in terms of their turf. And so I got that great example.
That is great.
It's very good.
It's interesting when I talk with different business owners and those that had that upbringing where their parents were business owners and those that didn't. And those, and I didn't. But you still find your way and you still dream. So it's great to hear stories where you're kind of surrounded by that.
Yeah,
bunch of dreamers and
kind of a
doers.
family business. My brother ended up taking it over. I was at 15 typing the invoices on the little typewriter, and everybody pitched in, and there were lean times. But you know, we all understood that if we really kept focused on it, it would be a success, and it was, and ultimately sold. And
You mentioned when you, prior to moving to the States, that you were on your third business. So during that time, did you ever have to raise capital for any of your businesses?
actually, I got the equivalent of a Canadian small business loan,
Okay.
which was really good and had some obviously favorable terms. And I paid it back way before they expected the money back, because I was able to. I just hate being in debt. It just drives me nuts. So I'm really kind of debt adverse, which doesn't really help me sometimes. But I'm just one of those typical people that feel safer when the bank's not breathing down your neck.
What is one lesson over the years that has taken you the longest to learn?
Oh my gosh, I think the one that I work on constantly, and I think I'm finally really close, is not to make assumptions and not to judge. That's huge. It's huge, because our brain so wants to judge and make assumptions and make up stories. So now I'm getting really good at, when something comes into my head, and usually it's a limiting thought or a belief or a story, I go, you know what, Laura, that was just a really cool little story. But it's not the truth. And we need to get over that story and find a better story that's going to serve me.
Absolutely.
In a better way. But yeah, I'm now getting really, really good about figuring out what are the stories that I'm making up, and what's the ground truth.
The key is being able to identify those and being able to tackle them and dismiss. Okay, if you could go back in time 30 years, what advice would you give your younger self?
30 years ago, my gosh, I would just say, keep your head down and believe in yourself. Just believe in your intuition about what's right, and as long as you follow your values, you will never be regretful. And so I would just say, be true to your values, be who you are, be authentic, and don't forget that you have value. You bring value as a human being, and just focus on what that is and how you deliver it.
What is your definition of success today?
I would say definition of success for me is just finding the lane that allows you to be challenged and grateful at the same time. A challenge for me is a big value. I like to take on a challenge, and I'm not afraid of it. But
most entrepreneurs do, right? Absolutely. Okay, what might people be surprised to know about you?
I don't know that they would be surprised to know much about me. I'm pretty much an open book. I don't really have any dark secrets or crazy aspirations that I haven't shared with many people. So I don't know if they. I think a lot of people are surprised that I'm a natural introvert, which I do need my quiet time, my thinking time, and if I don't get it, I find myself really on edge. You know, and not a good way. Right. Your edge is a very nice edge, but I'm thinking about my anxiety level goes up when I don't have enough alone time.
Right. And I have found that interesting, that so many business owners, CEOs, executives, many of us are equally as introverted as we are extroverted. We're not just all these people-oriented people that want that 100% of the time. We all enjoy a balance of being some of that quiet time as well. I know when I would host events, as soon as it was over, it was like I would kind of sit on the floor as you kind of gather your thoughts from the evening and just enjoy that hour or two. I enjoyed very much all the people and being together, but it's like you have to regroup after that. Do you have a favorite quote?
You know what? There's a Rumi quote. Rumi is a Persian poet, writer, I don't know, and it's in the middle of, I'm trying to get it right because I'm paraphrasing it.
I never can say the quotes right. I always mess them up, but makes them interesting.
Somewhere between right doing and wrong doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there.
Oh, I like that.
It reminds me that I have to let go of judgment.
I like that.
So there's no right doing or wrong doing. There's a field in the middle, and I'll meet you there.
I like that very much.
So that's my favorite Rumi quote.
I like that. I'll have to research that and Google that later and look it up. What exit, quickly, I know we're going to wrap up here in a second. Exit strategy, like what is your exit strategy at some point?
You know, I really, I have very slow exit strategy where I just start saying no to the stuff I don't like and I'm not interested or I'm not excited about until I'm left over with the stuff I can say a hearty yes to.
Right.
And that might be a business opportunity, it might be another book, it might be a travel around the world. And so my exit strategy is just being careful about what I say yes to. And so it takes me wherever that yes takes me. So I don't know that I have a total exit strategy. And I'm sure I'll have to say no to some business opportunities going forward. But that doesn't scare me. What I really want to hold myself accountable for is to say yes to the things that really engage me, that I'm really passionate about. And I don't know where that's going to take me. But I think my exit strategy is dying peacefully in my bed at this point. But I could be more strategic about that. But at some point I will give up my business, but I don't know what that will be.
So how can everyone get in touch with you? Give us your website and your contact details.
It's easy to get in touch with me. I'm www.180coaching.com. I'm easily found at LinkedIn at Laura S. Scott, because I use my S middle initial, so that's Laura S. Scott with 2 T's. I am always can be found at info@180coaching.com.
And if you are unable to reach Laura through those avenues, you can always reach out to Edge. You can email us at info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. I'd be happy to personally connect you with Laura. Highly recommend coffee with Laura anytime. But thanks so much for watching us today, and look forward weekly to Getting the Edge with me, your host, Kelly Wilson. I'm always unsure how to say that. But check out our website, edgebusinessmagazine.com. Again, we have a new one launching very soon, but you can check out our previous issues, and we'll have links to our podcast and Laura's show and all the great shows that we have coming up. So you can also find us on Facebook at Edge Business. So anyway, thanks so much for joining us today. And remember, with Edge, it's not only business, it's personal. Have a great day. Thanks.